Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Theosophical Society, I have great pleasure in welcoming you all for this wonderful evening's talk by Latha Krishna. Theosophical Society was founded in the year 1875 by two stalwarts, Henry Steele Olcott and Blavatsky in New York, in the city of New York. And then they moved to India, to Mumbai, and then they moved to Chennai. And they bought, with all the money they had, they bought about 15 acres of land, and that is called the Huddleston Garden, which is there at the entrance from the Muller Hospital gate. That 15 acres of land is all what they have been able to buy with all the money they had. And then later on, after a few years, Annie Besant came in here, and she was instrumental in buying about 250 odd acres roughly. So that the total extent of the land here is about 264 acres. We have 4 gardens here. Based on oneness, Annie Besant had penned down a poem, O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also there with every other. This is oneness, spirituality. Theosophy means Brahma Vidya in Sanskrit, or Atma Jnanam in Tamil. So this is it. And Theosophy is the synthesis of religion, spirituality, and science. And the motto or the values of objects of the Theosophical Society are to form a universal brotherhood of humanity without discrimination of sex, caste, creed, and any religion, anything for that matter. It is universal brotherhood. And the second object is to study comparative religions. And the third object is to study the latent powers in human beings. These are the 3 objects. And for anyone to become a member in the Theosophical Society, one has to abide by these 3 laws to become a member. This is all what it takes to become a member. And the fees is hardly about 200-300 rupees to become a member here. But becoming a member does not entitle one to get a walking pass here. A lot of people have been general managers here, and I used to sit there at the entrance there. People walk here and there, sir, I want to do some service here. So I ask, what kind of service would you like to do? I'm good in this, I'm good in that. I'll tell them, okay, full time, can you come? They said, no. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I can come like that. No, it doesn't work that way. So passes are not given these days because of a lot of constraints. So if one is coming here for these public talks, like for today, for example, this is the 30th talk in the Wisdom for Living series of monthly programs. This is the brainchild of our president, the 8th president of the Theosophical Society, Mr. Tim Boyd, who is today not here. He's coming on the 28th, I think. He has gone abroad. So he's coming here on the 28th. It's the brainchild of him that he said that ancient wisdom should not be the only wisdom. Wisdom should spread across other factors, other facets also, so that we have had speakers from Ramakrishna talking about spirituality, about communication, about Feng Shui, Vastu Shastra, about astrology, yoga. There are so many speakers who have walked on this dais, and they have given, even we have had a lot of medical doctors coming and talking about various aspects of the human body. And we have had a speaker, Dr. Lakshmi Vijaykumar, who spoke about, who was the founder of Sneha, who spoke about the mental illness and all. So we've had variety of speakers, and now Latha is coming to talk about the stories we tell ourselves. Latha is a 3rd generation filmmaker from a legacy family. Grandfather, late director K. Subramaniam, pioneer in establishing the Tamil film industry. Father and mentor, Padma Shri Dr. S. Krishnaswamy, film historian, writer, award-winning documentary and TV director. Mother, Dr. Mohana Krishnaswamy, is not far behind. She is a producer of over 400 short films, national award-winning research scientist. She has a doctorate as well as a science person. Latha's career in filmmaking include, it began in 1989, assisting her father in documentary films and TV serials. Currently, she is the executive director of Krishnaswamy Associates, a leading media production house. An award-winning filmmaker with 6 international awards, including the Cannes Corporate and Media Award, recognized for impactful storytelling that resonates across cultures. Arts and culture. Renowned classical dancer and choreographer, she represented India globally, including at the Parliament of Religions in Salt Lake City, blending performance with spiritual purpose. She has done her postgraduate in counseling psychology from the University of Madras. She is specialized in training in community mental health from NIMANS, Bangalore.
Thank you so much, Ramkumar. Thanks to Theosophical Society for having me here to share my views. Well, this is kind of a heavy subject. I'll try to make it light. About a week ago, I had this nagging headache. Nothing dramatic, but just that annoying pain that refused to leave. So I tried to sleep it off, but I kept tossing and turning and just couldn't sleep. I got up and reached out for my mobile. It was 2 a.m. And before even I knew it, I was into WebMD and typing there, causes for persistent headache. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with WebMD, it's a medical website that kind of has this magical ability to convince you that a sneeze could mean tuberculosis or a stubbed toe could mean cancer. So a few minutes into reading, I was like sweating profusely in an air-conditioned room, almost convinced that I had a rare brain parasite which was found only in Amazonian tree frogs. I was in full disaster mode. But then I knew that a part of me realized that this was being irrational. It was probably just dehydration or overtiredness. But then that small figment of doubt, that kind of ran wild and hijacked my common sense. So I tried to calm myself down. I said, okay, that's enough is enough. I think you're stressed out. I think you've been postponing things for too long. I think it's time to get back on track. And I gulped down half a bottle of water and went back to sleep. So next morning, headache was gone, but I was just struck by the sheer speed at which my mind had spun this full-blown medical thriller in IMAX magnitude, all from a single common symptom. I was like, I had completely trusted my inner narrator, like as if it was a veteran doctor. That moment, as absurd as it sounds, is what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. The clash between what you believe and what you experience. So I had trusted that panic-fueled imagination into believing I had a catastrophic, I had a fatal condition, all the time holding on to this belief that I'm a rational person. So this clash between thinking that I'm a rational person, having this catastrophic thinking, into this catastrophic thinking mode, kind of caused huge disturbance in me. Now, in order to ease out this discomfort, my brain did something very sneaky. In order to, fill that gap between uncertainty and control, my brain spun a new narrative to ease down, to bring that consistency back again. So if you take this, this is one common example of cognitive dissonance. If you take this particular incident, you can see there are so many dissonant elements there which actually clash with each other. One, my rational belief that headaches are, nothing serious and it's perhaps just harmless. Two, my reaction, I get up and look at WebMD at 2 a.m. It was definitely behavior not born out of logic, but out of anxiety. Three, my emotional reaction. In spite of knowing that WebMD, tends to exaggerate things, I go into believing it and go into a kind of a bizarre thinking mode. Four, my resolution strategy in order to ease this comfort between this thinking that I'm a rational person, but why am I having this kind of a bizarre experience? I weave out a new story which says, I am stressed out, I need to get back to track. So, in short, our mind tries to bring back that internal harmony by giving reason to that spiraling thought pattern. And that reasoning is resolution strategy. So now in this particular case, the resolution strategy was constructive. I have to get back to work. But there could have been other options also. I could have, blamed myself. I could have got up and said, I really, I tend to overreact. I can't really trust my instincts. Here, I am protecting my identity as a rational person, but I'm throwing myself under the bus. I have turned inward and labeled myself as flawed. Why? Because I have to give some reason to that behavior. So if I keep doing this consistently, keep blaming myself consistently, continuously, what happens is my confidence drops. I tend to lose trust in myself and my anxiety only increases. Now the second option could have been a denial mode. I just wake up in the morning and I say, oh, WebMD, okay, that's like, no big deal. I was just reading through some articles. I didn't panic. So before even I realized, I've rewritten the story. And here, in order to ease myself, I've completely downplayed the incident. Now this offers a certain peace, a certain calm immediately. But in the long run, what happens is, you go on, throwing all your emotions like this in a drawer and slamming it shut. Chances are it will blow up one day and the cycle will just start repeating again. Now the next option could have been, I could have blamed the external world. I could have said, see, WebMD tends to exaggerate things. So it's actually drama which is camouflaged as medical advice. So anyone would have freaked out. I mean, it's not my fault, it's the website's fault. Here, I have just transferred the blame onto someone else. Once again, for the moment, I'm peaceful. But what happens in the long run? I don't really look at my reactions. I'm not really acknowledging what's happening in me, and so I don't get to grow. Now, the fourth option is what actually happened to me in this particular incident. So I think and I say, okay, why did I panic? I think I was stressed out. I think I've been postponing things for too long. I think it was the pressure boiling over. So here, I have held on to my identity as a rational person, but without tearing myself down. Instead of blaming, turning inward and blaming myself or denying the whole thing or blaming the external world, I chose to focus on the why. So I looked at the whole picture and I noticed the logic lapse, and I also noticed what is beneath the logic lapse. The stress, burnout, perhaps even fear. So in this case, I have held on to my identity without neglecting my emotions, which is being human after all. So this strategy, this resolution strategy is what heals and helps you grow. This is reflection plus personal accountability. So here, we are able to move from reacting to responding to growing. This kind of builds that emotional resilience in you, one honest moment after another. So cognitive dissonance is not an enemy. It's just that it's a signal. It's your mind telling you, see, something seems off there. I think you better take a look. And when you do respond out of curiosity, not out of shame or denial or blame, then you grow. So that's the power and the danger of the stories that we tell ourselves. Way back in 1950s, psychologist Leon Festinger conducted an experiment which is today considered very popular in order to show to what extent we go to avoid these inner conflicts. So he chose two batches of students, and the students were asked to arrange pegs on a board for a full 1 hour. And quite an unimaginative, boring task. But at the end of 1 hour, they were asked to lie to the next batch, saying the task was super fun. Now, one batch was paid $20 each, the other batch was paid $1 each. Now, the end of the task, one of the batches actually believed that the task was fun. Any guesses on which batch? Why? Why? Well, not exactly, but almost there. So, yes, the $1 batch believed that they, okay, focus? That's the point. Yes, that's the point. So the $1 batch believed that it wasn't enough. I mean, there wasn't a good enough reason to lie. It was just $1. So their minds went that, why should I lie for just $1? So in order to ease that discomfort, their minds told them that maybe it's not that boring an activity. It's quite fun. Whereas the $20 batch had a good enough reason to lie. They got $20 for lying. And so they stuck to the lie. So this mental backflip is what is cognitive dissonance, the conflict between your beliefs and your actions, and how the brain scrambles to make sense of it all. And that's the power, that's how powerful our need for this internal consistency is. Now, let me ask you a question. So, how many of you are coffee lovers here? Can you please raise your hand? It's about half the hall. So, have you ever Googled and asked this question, is coffee healthy? And mysteriously found that you click on the articles that say yes, and just skim past those that say, perhaps coffee is addictive or coffee it ruins your sleep.
Without milk and sugar, coffee is fine.
Okay.
Even go bother to click the button. I know I'm going to have
Never
coffee.
browsed about coffee good or bad.
Never?
Never browsed about, never thought about whether it's good or bad.
That's another one. Okay. That's another reaction. Okay, so we tend to click on only the stuff that we believe in. And that's what psychologists call confirmation bias. And we do it all the time. We only tune into news channels that aligns with our political views. We love to watch ads of products that we already love. We give that thumbs up sign to data that we already agree with. But what happens when something there stares at you, something there is contradictory to your belief, and you're not able to just ignore it and scroll by? What happens then? Something very interesting happens. Let's just say you went shopping with your daughter and bought yourself a pair of new shoes. Now your daughter saw it and told you, it looks too wannabe, I don't think it suits you. But you liked it and you went ahead and bought it. The next morning you wear it and look at it and It's not that great. I mean, the color is too flashy, the fit is a little weird, and it even bites when you walk. So would you admit that you made a wrong decision? Most probably not. You would go on to say, you know, you actually, when you wear these shoes continuously, they expand. And it's a little flashy, but it's okay. I like it. It's trendy for me. You give excuses like this. Why? You're not lying. You are reframing reality to protect that belief that you made the right decision. You're not admitting the shoes were a mistake, because here, you're not questioning the shoes, you're questioning your judgment. So chances are you'll continue to wear them until they convince that it'll grow into you, until one fine day you'll just quietly donate it and pretend the whole thing never happened. That's the power of confirmation bias. That's what happens. Even when reality causes blisters in your heels, you try to fit it into your story. And this confirmation bias is not something which is shaped only by individual choices. It's something which affects large communities as well. It's not something only, in your personal bubble. It's something which scales to huge proportions, affecting large communities. So to see it in action, let's go back to the 1950s to a cult called the Seekers cult in Chicago. Now this cult claimed that the world would come to an end by a catastrophic flood on December 21, 1954. Why floods? Because their leader, Dorothy Martin, claimed that she got a message from the aliens warning her of the impending doom. But she told her followers, she reassured them not to worry. Those of you who have full faith, you will be saved by a flying saucer which will arrive at the nick of time. The extraterrestrial Uber service. So now things get more interesting. Psychologist Leon Festinger and his group of people and his team, they kind of infiltrate the cult, and not to stop them, but to observe what would happen when the prophecy failed. So of course the prophecy failed. December 21 came and went, no floods, no spaceship, not even a courtesy call from the aliens. So what happened? Did the cult fall apart? Did Dorothy Martin, abscond to some remote island? Nothing of that sort happened. The cult only intensified. Instead of admitting that, the flying saucer was running late forever, they did some mental gymnastics worthy of Olympic gold. They claimed that their faith saved the world. They claimed that their prayers convinced the aliens to stop the apocalypse and spare humanity. What do you call this? It's not denial. It's full-blown narrative remix. Even when reality contradicts your belief, you don't let go of your belief. You rewrite reality to fit into your story. Now you might say, okay, that was way back in the 1950s. We didn't have much exposure then. We were like, gullible people. So today we are smart. We have the internet. We are much more advanced. We are evolved. No, the thinking pattern remains the same. Today we are evolved. It's become more digital. So today our social media platforms are our new echo chambers. The more you scroll, the more you find stuff that aligns with your views. The more your beliefs get validated. The more you look at stuff that actually pokes holes in your worldview, it seems more outrageous. All thanks to the algorithms that keep feeding us only stuff that we already agree with. So let's take a recent example. The QAnon conspiracy theory, which originated in US in 2017. What started as a small theory in the net, a small rumor that a group of elites were running a global child trafficking network, and a person by named Q was giving inside information to the rest of the world through the net. So what started as a small internet theory blew out of proportion, blew into massive scale with millions of followers, all believing that they knew a certain truth that the rest of the world did not know. In spite of so many times their claims being baseless, were proved baseless, it was debunked over and over again, and yet the followers did not fall apart. Just like how the Seekers cult said that they claimed that their faith saved the world, the QAnon followers reinterpreted reality, the failure to bring out this network in the open as part of the plan. So, they kept saying things like, okay, it's happening, the mission is still on, the storm is coming, and things like, oh, I think it's too deep a network, so it's taking us time to bring them out, this kind of stuff. So the followers did not fall apart. Why? Because movements like QAnon don't just offer us information. They offer us something much more, something much deeper, much quieter. They offer us a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of identity. So when you belong to a group that thinks that it knows a truth that the rest of the world does not know, it gives you a kick. It's intoxicating. It like kinds of empowers you. It gives chaos a certain shape. It offers certainty in an uncertain world. The catch here is, these people are not foolish. They are emotionally invested. And emotional investment is a far greater bind than any chain. You hold on to those false beliefs, those false ideas, not because they are based on logic, but because they give you something much deeper, a sense of belonging, a sense of identity, a sense of community. And that's the danger of confirmation bias when it's entangled with identity. When your beliefs are so entangled with who you are, then you're not able to see evidence. You're just blind to evidence. You kind of twist evidence to make it fit into the story that you already believe in. Now, these are not just theories. It happens in most parts of the world. In India, we have thousands of such hushed up stories, invisible stories, which don't see the headlines. In Pune, a man, young and bright, went into the hills for a meditation retreat. It was all fine in the beginning. Nothing extreme. He found peace. He even got clarity of mind. But slowly, expectations grew heavier. He was expected to cut off friends who did not understand the path. He was expected to contribute to a cause, even if it meant selling his car. He was expected to blindly obey the instructions of the guru without using his mind. He did not lose his mind, he lost his footing. So what started as a search for peace ended up as a prison of obedience. When the story gives you emotional security, truth becomes negotiable. You look at evidence, you know it's contradictory to your belief, but letting go of the belief? No, definitely not. Why? Because letting go of the belief is like jumping off a cliff. Who would want to do that? Who would want to say, I was deceived? Who would want to say, I believed in something that broke me? What do you lose in the process? You lose your ability to explore, you lose your growth, you lose the ability to say, I was wrong, but that's okay. Beliefs are very powerful. Beliefs are what make us who we are, beliefs are what define how we live in this world, beliefs are what makes us how we see the rest of the world. And when these beliefs are unshakable, even when reality is completely against it, when you're not able to update your beliefs, even when evidence is completely contradictory, you're lost. You stop growing. And the reason is not because you're foolish, but because you search for meaning. You search for certainty in an uncertain world. And that's the real danger. Not being wrong, but being so emotionally attached to being right that you can't grow. You just hold on to that feeling, that thought, I am right, and you're not able to let it go. Growth begins when certainty ends. And courage is not just holding on to something very rigidly, it's in letting go of something when it's served its purpose. So let's just do something. Let's go home today and ask this question. What are the stories that we cling on to? What are the beliefs that we have inherited or we have absorbed from the surrounding that give us emotional security? And ask yourself this question, not just today, but again and again. What is it that I'm unwilling to question? What is it that I'm unwilling to question? Because when you get the courage to ask that, that's when you actually start seeing clearly again. Well, psychologist Erik Erikson believed that life isn't something random and it flows in a story. And like all stories, it evolves through chapters, 8 to be precise. And with each chapter comes a new challenge, a new question, and a new turning point. Questions like, can I trust the world? Who am I and what can I contribute? So Erikson's first stage was trust versus mistrust. So just for a minute, imagine you're that little baby lying down in the mattress, crying in the dark. Now at that stage, you're not thinking in words. It's like your whole body is asking this question, can I trust the world I've landed in? And trust here is not some major, gestures. It's just in those small things. A bottle when you're hungry, a hand that holds you, and a voice that says, I'm here for you. So if that baby gets all that, then it grows up believing, I'm in a safe environment. But if for some unfortunate reason, the baby grows without all this care, then it begins to doubt and it begins to mistrust the entire world, asking this question, can I count on anyone? And this question doesn't just stay in your childhood, it kind of runs through till you're adult. But the good news here is trust can be built at any stage. All it requires sometimes is just one person who stands by you and says, I'm there for you. The next stage is autonomy versus shame. And Erikson says the question that is asked here is, Can I do things on my own? So just imagine that little toddler sitting at the dining table, trying to eat that cereal with it all over the floor, and he's screaming on the top of his voice, I want to eat by myself. And you keep cajoling him, you say, no, da kanna, please, no. And the only answer that you will get is no. That no is not defiance, it's discovery. It's him asking, it's him saying, I exist, I have choices. That's his first taste of independence. So when at this stage, if children are encouraged, then they begin to feel that they can do things by themselves. But when they are discouraged or when they're corrected all the time, then he begins to have a little doubt, he begins to feel a little shame. He says, okay, maybe I can't do this. The next question that pops up is, can I make things happen? This is the age of preschool, the magical world, the age where you create magic, like your couches become pirate ships and your cardboard boxes become rocket launchers and your kitchen utensils all become swords and shields. A lot of stuff. I'm sure all of you must be experiencing all this at home. A lot of adventure, a lot of initiative happens. Erikson called this stage initiative versus guilt. So if you're encouraged at this stage to do things, then the child begins to think that, yes, my ideas matter. But if for some reason he is shut off, he is not allowed to explore, or he is, said, how dare you talk to your mother like this? A sense of guilt creeps in, asking that maybe I shouldn't have spoken, maybe I shouldn't have done this. The next stage is industry versus inferiority. So this is the age of the school. And the question that pops up is, can I succeed? Am I successful? So this is the age when children are able to, look at their peer group and observe and say things like, okay, so who is the one who does the Lego first? Who is the one who has a nice handwriting? Who is the one who gets picked up by the team first? They're able to observe all this. And when this stage is encouraged, then they begin to develop grit and resilience. And, I can do it, I can do better. But for some reason, if you discourage them and constantly compare them with their siblings or their classmates, that's when a feeling of inferiority creeps in. Maybe I don't have it in me. The next stage is the age of the adolescence. That, complicated, purple hair, loud music, age where you go on changing your identity like you change outfits in a fitting room. The stage which Erikson called identity versus role confusion. But here, identity isn't something that is locked up at 17 and forgotten about. Because at 18, your idea of a party could be, idea of an enjoyable evening could be partying all night. But at 35, all you want to do is binge watch Netflix. At 50, you might want to go for a walk. You might want to just stargaze from your terrace. So identity isn't static, it's fluid. And this question, who am I, which pops up during this stage, is not something that is answered once. It's something which is asked again and again at every crossroad. And the more honest you are with these answers, the more closer your life is to who you're meant to be. The next stage is an even more scarier question pops up. Can I share who I am with someone else? Erikson called this intimacy versus isolation. Now, this intimacy we're talking about is not just romantic or wedding rings. It's that feeling, this is me, this is the real me. Are you willing to stay? And anyone who is able to, who has understood themselves, people who understand themselves are able to form these intimate relationships. But people who have doubts about themselves, who are unsure of themselves, they kind of fear rejection and build those walls around themselves. And that's when a a sense of isolation creeps in. And this isolation is not about staying single or going on a solo trip, because there are many people out there who enjoy solitude and thrive solo. This is about feeling emotionally sealed off. You are in a crowd, but you're still not able to connect with anyone. You feel you're unseen. That's isolation. And Erikson says that no matter how independent we are all wired for belonging. The next stage is where the question shifts to, what am I giving? What am I leaving behind? Erikson called this generativity versus stagnation. Now, this leaving behind, the legacy that we say, is not about your medals or your shields or your best-selling memoirs. It's about contribution, the feeling that something or someone is growing because of me. It could be raising children, it could be mentoring your colleague, it could be writing books, it could be tending your garden, it could be just acts of kindness that, create ripples which are far more than you can even see. But when this giving is blocked for some reason, when in all your work, in all your busyness, you feel is not meaningful, then you have the sense that you're stagnating. Now, this is not about failure. It's about this question, where is my energy going? Who or what is growing because of me? And this is not about scale, it's about direction. Even if you're able to help one person rise up after he has fallen, you feel you've contributed. So somewhere, if you have this thought that you're stagnating, it's perhaps life whispering in your ears, there is more to build there is more to give. Because at this stage, there's only one desire. Can I leave the world a better place than I found it? You want some water? So the next stage is integrity versus despair. Here, the question that pops up is, can I make peace with myself? And once again, this is not about your resumes, your accolades, or your shields or medals. It's something much deeper. It's about integrity. Not the performative kind that you say one thing in public and you hide the mess in private, but the kind that you live with, the kind that you find in your bones, the kind where you feel you're whole, that you feel you have been true to yourself without pretending. It's when you can tell your story and say, yes, that's my story. I accept it and I live with it. You could remember your mistakes. You may be remembering your heartbreaks, the things you could have done differently. It's not about not doing mistakes. It's about that feeling that I have not abandoned myself. I stood by myself, and I took responsibility when I fell short. That's integrity. A mirror that you face without flinching. Now, what happens when regrets outweigh this reflection? You get this feeling that, okay, maybe I have not lived in alignment with what mattered. Maybe I haven't been really true to myself. That's when a feeling of despair creeps in. And you feel that your story is unfinished. Now, Erikson says there's only one difference between integrity and despair. It's how you make sense of your story. It's not about how others see it. It's about how you make sense of your story, how you hold it. Because integrity is not something that is built in the end. It's something that you find all along. You live with it all along. It's in those honest moments one after another. It's in living honestly. It's in loving deeply. It's in forgiving freely. Because at the end, when life quiets down and when everything is much quieter, you're not running a race, and that's when what matters most is not more time, is not more accolades. It is peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing I lived, I loved, I tried, I mattered. Not perfectly, but meaningfully. So from that first question, can I trust the world, to the last question, does it all make sense? Erikson says, life is not random, it's a story, the one that you get to write yourself. Now, one of psychology's deepest thinkers, Carl Jung, had a different kind of a question. What happens to those pieces that get left behind along the way? The pieces that don't actually fit into the stage we are in. What happens to those pieces? Things like anger that we swallowed, emotions that we were asked to withhold, fear that we could not voice out, talents that were, hidden or, shoved away. What happens to all these pieces? Jung says, we carry them in what he calls the shadow. All those, the pieces that we dumped, pieces that we buried, denied, disowned. Why? Not because we are bad, but because somewhere along the way, people told us these pieces were unwelcome. Anger that we were punished for showing, confidence that people told us to tone down, talents that we couldn't bring out because of circumstances, emotions that we didn't know how to handle. Jung's insight was very radical. He did not say, get rid of the shadow. He said, get to know it. And that's what is popularly called shadow work today. It's not some, dark mystical stuff that is taboo kind of stuff. It's plain, clean, honest work. Just asking yourself this question, what am I avoiding? What are the emotions that I have hidden? Have you ever snapped at somebody for something very small and then wondered, why did that bug me so much? That's your shadow knocking at your door. Because these things don't disappear. They kind of, they sneak out sideways through the triggers, through our reactions, through the way we see the world and see ourselves. Jung says, growth isn't perfection, it's about integration. Becoming whole, not cutting off the pieces away from us, but by gathering everything back into us. So just for a minute, imagine, your personality as a house. You tend to live only in those dark, bright areas. But what happens to that stuff which is hidden in the basement? That's integration is all about opening that basement door, taking things from there, dusting it and bringing it back upstairs. A man in his 70s once dreamt of being an athlete. But unfortunately, he had an injury and his dream was shattered and he had to live with that bitterness for a very long time. But then, over the years, he kind of made peace with himself, and he kind of thought that it's not about winning games, it's about teamwork, it's about dedication, discipline, and your ability to push limits. So he started, using that to live in a different kind of way by mentoring his mentoring kids, by coaching his grandson, by encouraging and, along with his teammates. He didn't get to live the exact life that he lost, but he was able to integrate all that, what it stood for. So you may not be able to reclaim all those pieces and bring it back totally in the same form, but you should be able to give it a new direction, give it a new voice. Jung says, one doesn't get enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In fact, he put it in a very simpler form. He said, I'd rather be whole than be good. I'd rather be whole than be good. So we all live in stories that is shaped not just by what happens to us, but also by the way our mind protects us. Things like cognitive dissonance actually cuts off those painful parts. Then your confirmation bias makes us cling on to our favorite stories, and you don't really live in one chapter. You move one chapter after another in the story, and Erikson showed how each question pushes you forward in the story. And Jung told us that those pieces that we have left behind are actually part of the story and have to be reclaimed in order to make it whole. So mental health is not about being positive 24/7. It is not about feeling on top of the world 24/7. It is not about deleting your difficult emotions. It is not about fixing your flaws. It is about integration. It's about becoming whole, gathering all parts of yourself, the successes and the failures, the emotional highs and the heartbreaks, the wins and the wounds, the light and the dark, and make everything whole once again. And when you do that without hiding, you start understanding. You don't just survive, you expand. And in the end, the greatest story you'll ever tell yourself is what you wrote, the one that you feel whole, complete, and entirely your own. I know it was a little heavy session, very heavy session. So now I would like to, keep the floor open, anything at all. I don't know if I'll be able to answer the questions, but please do ask, because that's what makes us think further. Please.
Every parent is a cult owner. So what really happens is that we know practically that the human brain develops 100% only at the age of 20 to 22. The children are growing their brain all along for nearly 20 years. By the time they come to 7, they are already given so much of confirmation about everything, starting from religion and God and belief, systems and everything. And then by around 14 or 17 years of old, when they go into the world of colleges or universities or schools, with all the challenges of hormonal development, as you mentioned about what Erikson said about that identity, it in science is not identity itself, because at the age of 17, at the age of puberty, for both the boys and girls, the hormonal changes actually create a lot of mental pressure for them, and no homes are giving them an opportunity to express them. Every home tries to control the hormone, including the teachers and schools and colleges, society, community, every one of them. So by the time they come to the age of 22, when the brain is fully developed, they are completely suppressed. And that was Sigmund Freud says very clearly that extreme subconsciously buried thoughts in your mind, it what gets into like what Adi Shankara says in Advaita philosophy, you get superimposed in everything what you do between subjective and objective matter. Like for example, rope and snake story. And you should have an idea of rope as well as idea of snake to superimpose snake on the rope. And that is, so confirmation bias is not an easy thing to happen, because it actually travels a lot of way from childhood to understand, to see things based on the cult was given to them by society, community, and family. And also they go to the path of frequency illusion and other models to come into confirmation bias. So what happens, ma'am, is, and my practical question is, by the time a boy or girl is 25 years old, they already got into this huge suppressed subconscious system of mind. And whatever we do, it is difficult for them to come out of it, because at that particular age, the entire society, community, everything has to be open. But what we do, at age 25, you only expect them to get a good job, get married, get children, and start the same cult process again, right? So what I would like to say is how this is practically applied. I mean, it is all good to hear, but how you practically apply? Because even at the age of 25, we don't allow our children to become free, independent, right? So
Yeah.
how practically it is applied?
Two things. One, it's not impossible. It's possible to reprogram yourself, and mind is something very fascinating. So at any stage, you can reprogram your mind. So confirmation bias is not something that we can, not correct. So it is possible. So, and there are umpteen ways out there, one. Two, therapies and so many things are there to correct it. Sometimes it just needs one revelation to correct. Sometimes it takes a little working on to correct, but it is possible. Two, I think that's why we are becoming more aware of mental health, and the stages of Erikson's are being told, because the parents take more responsibility in grooming the children.
Since I have a close relationship with you.
Okay. Oh God, I'm running off.
No, as a child, she would make pulkas. 2-year, 3-year-old child will make pulkas and parathas, copying her mother. So we had a maid at home. She will make pulkas for her dad, and we'll both sit together and eat. And this child will not allow her to cook. So she'll make small ones. As a mother, I would say, please don't cook it and give it. It's like an India map. But the maid at home, she was so experienced, she would make it and come to him and give it and say that your daughter has made it, and he would eat. So what I'm saying is, as we say in science, that ontogeny repeats phylogeny. What it means is the phylum's evolution is repeated in the life cycle of an individual, So the culturally what we learn and what we learn in our life, we do it with our children. So there's nothing wrong, it's blessed are those people who get that information and the collective experience, and others have to learn through books.
See, all the time, I have an image. I, in the sense, most of us. Okay, me. The portion which is in light, I am always thinking it is me. I never consider my dark side, which you told about, that shadow. So that should be considered as a whole. It's not as a portion. That's a nice thought. It made me to, maybe we have heard this many times, but today it was very different. Thank you for that. Thank you. No question. I'm just...
Thank you.
Madam, I have a question. The question is, somebody like you who has actually learned psychology professionally, and I think you named about 8 or 9 scientists and very many theories, during your speech. If you got shattered with the thought of some mental imbalance, okay, um, then it makes us all believe, can we all live normal lives? So,
That's
what do people like us do?
Well, from a difference between a layman and a psychologist is psychologist uses terminologies which a layman doesn't use. Okay, so the same thing anyone could have experienced. Only thing is you give terms, you don't give terminologies. Yes, but learning something doesn't mean that you are above that. You're also a part of this world. You also have a human mind, and the human mind works the same way. Only thing is, because you may be aware, you might be able to catch it faster than people who are not aware. Otherwise, I don't think there's a difference.
One direct question. If somebody has got an inferiority complex, how will you make them come out of it?
Sir, I think each one of us have been born with some inborn talent or the other. You could be good in maths. I may be very bad at maths. I could be, my body language could be good. I could be a good dancer. You may have nothing to do. You may know nothing about dancing. So each one has some inborn talent. So if there are children who have, or even adults who have grown up with this inferiority complex, it's unfortunate because there aren't enough people who have spotted the talent or brought out the talent, or even the person himself hasn't been aware of that talent. So the minute he becomes aware of, I can do this, your inferiority goes.
Thank you, Latha, for enlightening us on psychology. I think if I have to write an examination, I think I'll pass, I think. I won't get a distinction, but I'll get a pass mark with a little bit of grace. 35 out of 100, I think I'll get. This is all what we used to get in SSLC. 35 marks, I think I'll get. There's integrity, beliefs, and
Hey,
cognitive
you don't have to remember the
dissonance.
names. I said you don't have to remember the names. The thing is, session is for you to know that the more and more, you'll have to just, go back and think for yourself and get that little time for yourself every day.
And yeah, I would like to thank on behalf of the TS and also our general manager, Mr. Jaykumar, who told me to share this token of our gratitude for you. And I think the crux of her talk, become whole, and the opening in universal invocation, what Mr. Ramkumar said, one life, one world, and one spirit. The whole theosophical philosophy is about becoming whole. That is universal brotherhood. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Lataji.